Approaching Butte for the first time, one is struck by the large gray rounded boulders that cover the landscape. This granite is host rock to the richest hill on Earth, as Butte, Montana has become known. Butte has been one of the great mining capitals of the world. Its spectacular history dates back to 1864, when prospectors found gold in some of the creeks. In only 3 years, some $1.5 million in gold had been scratched from the stream bed gravels. Butte was waning as a gold camp when in 1874, it was rediscovered as a prosperous silver camp. Silver mining peaked in 1887, but the decade of the 1880s saw the Butte mines produce almost 1,100 tons of silver. It was copper, however, that made Butte into one of the richest mining and historic districts in the world. With the dawn of the electrical age and the need for copper, Butte was on its way to becoming one of the most important industrial cities in the American West, and the largest producer of electrolytic copper in the world. From the 1860s through the 20th century, Butte's history, economy, culture, and landscape were shaped by mining. The mining industry was responsible for bringing people of many nationalities from all over the world to Butte. Butte became a melting pot for Irish, Cornish, Finn, Italian, Croatian, Serbian, German, Norwegian, Chinese, and many other cultures, creating rich ethnic neighborhoods and diverse international traditions. By the time America entered World War I, Butte was a city of over 90,000 people, boasting some of the best theaters in the Northwest, and providing a rich social and cultural lifestyle to those who lived there. So how did Butte become the richest hill on Earth? It's all in the geology. Dr. Dick Berg is a geologist with the Montana Bureau of Mines and Geology.
First of all, Butte is here because of the tremendous metal deposits, mainly copper. And the tremendous metal deposits are here because of veins. That's where the copper minerals are. The veins are here because of the granite.
The gray granite rock that surrounds the Butte area is known as the boulder batholith. A batholith forms when a great mass of molten rock cools slowly underneath the surface of the earth.
This molten rock or magma that came up through other layers of rock didn't reach the surface. If it had reached the surface, it would have flowed out on the surface, and we call it lava, or lava flows. This stuff didn't. This magma got close to the surface, then just sat there and cooled very slowly. In many areas, the granite that you see exposed around Butte has weathered to form boulders. They may look like boulders have been brought in by streams or glaciers or something, but really they haven't. They just formed here. The way they formed is just by the weathering of the granite. If you look over here, see where it's kind of peeled off like an onion? And this granite is much more weathered, kind of scrape away at it. This granite is just hard. And so this stuff gets weathered away much more rapidly than this does, and as erosion takes place and all this soft stuff gets weathered away to form this sort of material, these are left. And that's the way those boulders form. This is a marvelous exposure of the granite of the boulder batholith. And a number of things you can see here. If you look at this, you can see these fractures. See these shallow grooves that are going up kind of like this in the outcrop? And these are where the granite has actually broken.
Fractures in the granite were probably formed by crustal processes related to mountain building or compression of the continental crust. Although the boulder batholith extends over 2,000 square miles, it is only in the Butte area that the fractures or breaks in the rock were emplaced with an extensive, rich mineral vein system.
The picture I'm trying to present is it's an evolving system. These fluids came in pulses, new fractures opened, new veins formed of different ages. Probably about 70 million years ago, a little fracture in this granite. This water came up just really hot, and cooled and filled up that fracture with this quartz. And there's a little iron here. You can see it's rusty, and a little mineral metal manganese. But the interesting thing is, as this water came up and deposited this stuff, it also kind of seeped out in the granite. And rather than being what miners call tombstone granite, or just the good hard granite, this granite's all crumbly. You know, it's not good granite at all. You couldn't make a building out of this. It's all crumbly because this hot water interacted with some of the minerals and changed them into clays. The veins we're looking at here just are quartz veins, don't have metals in them. But here's one from one of the underground mines. And here's some of the granite. It was sitting like this. This is quartz here. And here is it's really lead ore and some copper ore. And this is a small example of what, in some cases, are very thick veins.
The Anaconda veins in the west part of the district were the largest and most productive, averaging 20 to 30 feet thick, with local thicknesses up to 100 feet. The underground mine workings followed the vein systems, resulting in over 10,000 miles of underground passages. The deepest was over a mile beneath the city of Butte, which led to Butte's nickname, a mile high and a mile deep.
This is an example of one of the shaft mines at Butte. It's the Orphan Girl mine. And we're walking under the head frame. This big steel structure is here to hoist the ore up, and then the ore is dumped into ore bins, which are behind us here. Right here is a cage which the miners would get loaded into, just crammed into it. And there's a cable attached to it that goes back to the hoist house. They'd be lowered down to where they worked for the next 8 hours. Picture the miners working underground, and they would drill holes in the working face, put sticks of dynamite in, blast this, and sometimes they'd see these spectacular crystals.
If the rock fracture was more open and there was room enough, beautiful crystals could form, like those seen in the Mineral Museum exhibits.
And they would then collect these, some of them, pack them out in their lunch buckets, and at the end of the shift, trade them for a drink, give them to friends, sell them to friends. And in this way, many of these fine specimens that are in museums were taken from the underground workings. And speaking of fine specimens, I think this is just gorgeous. This is not an ore mineral. It has a lowly name of fool's gold, but it's really pyrite. It really contains iron and sulfur. This is from Butte. And can you picture this? Let's say here's the side of the vein, the granite, and these crystals just slowly grew. Can you imagine what it must have been like to be a miner and break into something like this and have, you're in this dark stope, have your headlight shine on this and see all these sparkle? I think you wouldn't be human if you didn't collect it.
From 1864 to the present, over 480 mines existed in Butte. Many of the mines were operated under the Anaconda Company, truly a giant on the Montana landscape for over 100 years. In the early 1950s, the price of copper dropped significantly. That, coupled with the decline in the quality of the veins and the increased costs of deep-level vein mining, caused the Anaconda Company to consider more economical methods of mining. In 1955, excavation of the Berkeley Pit was started. This open-pit mining of lower-grade, near-surface ores made mining profitable once again in Butte. However, the advent of open-pit mining brought dramatic physical and economic change to Butte. The pit gradually consumed whole neighborhoods, bordering Butte's central business district. When the Berkeley Pit closed operations in 1982, the dimensions of the enormous excavation were about 7,000 feet long, 5,600 feet wide, and 1,800 feet deep. At the peak of mining operations, the pit produced over 248,000 tons of rock per day.
The total amount of copper recovered from the Butte ores, this would be just plain old metallic copper, like used in pipes or pennies, is enough to pave the interstate highway for a distance of 155 miles with a pavement that covers the 4 traffic lanes and is a foot thick.
The Berkeley Pit finally closed in 1982 as the market for copper could not warrant continued operations by the Anaconda Company. In 1986, the East Berkeley Pit, renamed the Continental Pit, reopened, mining a low-grade copper molybdenum deposit. From the late 1880s through the turn of the 21st century, Butte yielded about 21.5 billion pounds of copper, 1/3 of the total used in the U.S. during this period. Other minerals mined from the Butte district include zinc, manganese, lead, molybdenum, silver, and gold, all with a value of over $31 billion. Today, remnants of the headframes of Butte's underground mining heyday dot the landscape, and the Berkeley Pit slowly fills with water. The future of mining in Butte depends on the prices of the metals produced by mining. And though the community of Butte has had to find additional ways to survive, one can never forget the dramatic story of the richest hill on earth.